Okay, hello. Thank you, Orion Sun, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. And Orion, I wasn't sure how clear your audio was there, but hopefully people could understand a good part of it. So yes, I've been being a doctor, and I've met many of you, I'm sure, and some not. And so after I finished med school and internship in the 70s, I said, I don't know enough about health and healing. I need to know more. And I wasn't very healthy myself. And so I started an avenue where I started looking at other systems of healing to combine with my Western medicine training, and started walking the land and studying with herbalists and making potions and having a whole, herbal medicine practice. Started studying traditional Chinese medicine and the energies of the body, um, and really helping. I started working with tuning forks and the body and energy, and I saw that it really helped people clear and get into their creative selves and feel open. And my whole studies of what healing is and what I've written about in over many years, and staying healthy with the seasons is where it starts. So I first came out to California, and was at Big Sur at night and standing on the cliff and looking up at the sky, and I never saw so many stars. I grew up in Michigan, and the cosmos just really engaged with me. And then I started looking at the seasons and realized that, there's a lot of good information that's been passed on through the generations and the centuries, and we should know about that. And as I started studying that, I felt this is valuable information. This should be part of healthcare. So that's been my path for these many decades, in um, incorporating, the energy medicine and meridians and chakras, and working with my own energy and working with people's energy. I'm still an active doctor, and I have a great clinic in San Rafael, California. And I just wrote, I would say, I'm still doling out drugs, but I'm pushing detox and lifestyle. So it really is part of that. So what I want to explore today with you all is the idea that disease is kind of anti-evolutionary. It's blockages, and I'll go through that in a few slides. And healing has to do with change. So in the completion of Staying Healthy with the Seasons, some of you have this, I asked, what is the essence of healing? And I wrote, truth, faith, balance, communication, understanding, love. They're all important parts of healing, but change and evolution is really the essence. So if we start there, then we can build from there. So question for you all is, what are you evolving? Are you open? Are you aware? I know I'm looking to learn and grow. To me, we're here on earth to learn, grow, and evolve. And if we stop doing that, that's part of disease. So I am going to screen share and open up here, do this that I've been getting trained in, and go to that. Okay, so hopefully you can all see that. And so let's just go through a little bit here. So disease is basically a blockage. It's from a bit of traditional Chinese medicine. It's a blockage in the energy flow and kind of the presence. So what causes blockage? What causes this resistance? Certainly injuries can do that, and infections can do that too, but those aren't really the deeper causes. From my studies of traditional Chinese medicine, it's the climates, it's extremes of climates, and it's the emotions. Too much anger or fear or worry can alter the body's energy, and so there we, that's where we're looking. So, but we want to get everything flowing. We want to look at ourselves physically and mentally, emotionally and spiritually. And disease is conflict. Healing is resolution of that. Healing is the part of the mystical marriage, the masculine, feminine, the inner outer balance. And when we get everything flowing and opening up our channels, and you can do that through acupuncture and body work and things like that. But just our own practice, and we'll get into that more. Actually, I have a lot of material here, and I'm looking at doing another class, another free class in March that will really deal with more body energies and kind of the presence and developing your own practice. Let's see here. Okay, so here's just a breath break here. Take a breath and kind of come into the beginning. We're moving into spring pretty soon. So when we really connect with our subconscious and we embrace the conflicts that represent the problems we have, or the symptoms, we can start to begin healing. As I said, we're here on Earth. To me, we are evolutionary beings. I mean, if we just look at the last 50 years of what's happened on the planet and what people have with technology, and we're able to all join together from wherever we are in the world in a class right now. We can communicate with anybody, anywhere, in seconds. I mean, what's happened has been an explosion of the psyche in a sense. But we want to keep growing, we want to keep learning, and we want to keep evolving. And that's what this, whole program that I've developed. Last year I taught about staying healthy with the seasons, and I'll share with you in a bit about that. But we want to embrace our entire being. Got that. Okay. So just take a breath now and relax your jaw and just look at this. I first looked at that, I said, why is all that white stuff in the way of the rose? But then I just look at the geometry of it all, and I can appreciate that as well. So really, I'm talking about more subtle, I've called myself a philosopher physician, as I was reading many years ago, Manly Hall and the journey of the sun and the moon. And, I'm going to share that with you a little bit too, but we're all unique people. I wrote individual snowflakes. Each of us are one of a kind. And so what our process is and what our own evolution is individual. And that's what we want to look at a bit today. So looking at the seasons and the cycles and the qualities, that's where I started with staying healthy with the seasons. So we want to keep, flowing and growing and get there. So right now we're in the winter, the water wonderland. At least in Northern California, we had a little bit of rain. It was tempting, and it's not so much now. So we have concerns about water and the water imbalance and the temperature imbalance. My good friend Dr. Sun is concerned about the earth and wants to help, and all of us are here to help as well. So wintertime is a time of reflection. It's a time to tune into what we need, and we'll look at that in terms of the moon cycle as well. But we're getting ready to plant the garden and also to plant the growth and the goals for each of us in our own lives. Okay, so in a quick review here, so illness relates to conflict and resistance to flowing and growing. We're here to evolve and learn. So when we resist, certain symptoms and disease, to me, are messages, and the message is what's important. When we embrace healing, we will grow. And this evolutionary healing, one of my friends and mentors, Marty Rossman, who's a medical doctor who does acupuncture and Chinese medicine, but also he's one of the teachers for hypnotherapy and guided imagery. So, in my course, I'm looking at having a conversation with him about um, what would do, how do we use this message of illness when we don't feel well. I've been teaching about integrative medicine for take a little break there. Yeah, I've been teaching about integrative medicine for 40 years now. And the key is, when you don't feel well, a Western medicine question is, what can I take to make this go away? And a lot of people still kind of focus there. A more integrative questions, or a deeper question is, what's going on, body? What's your message to me? How can I, what's needed for healing? And so that's really the difference. And so there's a symbolism. So when I was working with Marty and Dr. Irving Oil, who kind of guided us in this imagery work, is like, if you see yourself in a healed state, that can help with the movement of that. And so that's where we go. We want to know, why am I ill? What's going on? What's the message here? And to me, that's something that we'll explore more deeply. So I'm going to share again and come back. Okay. All right. Well, here we are on this Saturday, a couple of days before new moon and Chinese New Year. And I want to just get into that for a little bit, because this symbolic imagery and messages of life, and there's a lot of subtle levels. But Chinese New Year is typically the second new moon after the solstice. It's related to, it's a 60-year cycle, because you have the elements, the 5 elements, and the 12 signs, the 12 animals. So that's 60 years. So, and February 1 is new moon, and that begins the year of the water tiger. So we're coming out of so here's an image that Bethany Argyle, my longtime business associate, and I created many years ago too. And this is a mandala that represents the 12 animals. And there they are: rat, ox, tiger, rabbit, dragon, snake, horse, ram, monkey, rooster, dog, and boar. So here, find your, those of you, many of you know what you are, but if you look at your date here, and I did find one mistake there in the rooster under earth, way down there. This should say 1969. So this is from a card that went with the t-shirt design that we have. So if you find your spot there, then you'll know whether you're an earth rabbit or a water snake or a meadow monkey. And so these have symbols. And one of my segments will be understanding our own elemental identity. So here you have kind of the zodiac signs that relate to the animals, some of the qualities there. So check out where you are and to see if those qualities connect with you. There's no system that I found that is perfect, that everything is exact. So here's a water tiger. That's from my January of my World Wildlife calendar. So that's a really nice looking tiger. So it's time for renew, get our energy back. And we're coming out of a couple of years of chaos, of restrictions, and it's time to step forward into new energies and activity, and get our growth going, and have a little bit of ambition. And the water element for the tiger year, which can be more ferocious, has a calmness to it. So hopefully we'll be smooth enough, and hopefully the water on our planet will balance out a bit more as we become a little bit more conscious about all that. So we can, it's time to be adventurous. You see qualities for the tigers: bravery, confidence, strength, and it's, has a passion to it. So part of what I'm looking at and what I use in my daily life and in my practice is to really connect with the messages of the outside world and the messages of the inside. So and I watch the equinoxes and solstices and the doyo periods. That's what I taught in my Staying Healthy with the Seasons course last year. Is this 10 days before and after each equinox and solstice. So there's about 20 days. That is the transition period. And if we pay attention to these cycles and changes, then we're able to embrace what's needed. One of the ideas of staying healthy with the seasons is you look at uh, the next season, in the couple of weeks before that actually arrives, so that we can prepare. We adapt our food, or adapt our activity level a little bit. So there's a continual ongoing change. There's nothing permanent except change. Uh, and here we have, so looking at the elements and the seasons, and also, I've embraced the sun and moon cycle, the lunar cycle. Men tend to be a little less aware of this, 28, 9, 30-day cycle. Women tend to have tuned into that a little bit more, but it's still part of, to me, the creative. When I did my first cleanses back many years ago, I started doing a 3-day new moon cleanse because I was tuned in to the experience that I would overeat and stuff my creative feelings, and I started to do a 3-day cleanse the day before of and after the new moon, and I felt like that was really helped in my writing. So I'm going to come back to this here. So I want to give you a little story of the sun and moon story. The lovers in our sky, and the moon goes around the earth, every month, and it comes in. So new moon, which will occur Monday night, Tuesday morning, is when the feminine, the moon, comes to Papa Sun and says, okay, here's what I want to see happen this next, here's what I want to create, here's what I want to develop. Okay, and as soon as that message gets in there, and this is your own internal message, then you start to act on it. So you do the action. So the first 7 days after the new moon, you start to do the things that will help you come forth. Okay, and if you're not following through, if you're lazy, if you're hiding out, if you're not getting the message, then there can be crisis. It's called Crisis in Action, a book I read called The Lunation Cycle by Dane Rudyard, one of the earlier astrology teachers. It's called The Lunation Cycle, and I got this kind of understanding from him. And so as you move toward full moon, if you're acting and moving toward your goals and your creative activities, then you start to be illuminated. Basically, full moon is the sunlight, is the sun opposite. Full moon is defined as the sun is 180 degrees opposite the moon. And so the full sun is hitting the moon. So you get moonlight, you get sunlight on the earth, at night. And that kind of keeps people a little bit more awake and, active. So we want to be illuminated at full moon, and then hopefully we come forth with something. And then as we move toward 3/4 moon, we start to bring it into our consciousness. We start to get the understanding of what's happening. And then as we move to the new moon again, then you start to bring that into your consciousness. And if you haven't gotten there, and you haven't brought it in, and you haven't gotten the awareness there, then you can have what's he called crisis in consciousness, where you're not understanding, you're not feeling comfortable, you're stressed out, you're worried, whatever it might be. And then as you come back to new moon, then Mother Moon comes to Papa Sun and says, okay, that was good, now let's do this. And it's not always positive creativity. So sometimes things happen. There's a lot of stresses that happen in people and the earth. So I'm going to come back to that again. Okay. All right. So just to review kind of what I just shared, is the inner alignment on creative time is the new moon cycle. So when the masculine and feminine energies come together. But that's a time to begin something new. Then you start the first quarter, you make progress and you do it, or you get kind of a stress in action. Then you have an illumination clarity at full moon, and then in third quarter, you incorporate the learning into your conscious awareness. And if that's not the case, then you have some stress around that. And then the last quarter, you kind of come into your rest cycle, you tune in more deeply. So it's really, a new moon is a time of connecting, and full moon is a time of energy. So that's how I look at it. And part of what we'll work on, and here's the feminine, the receptive side. And part of what we'll look at, in the development of our evolutionary healing program, is that every month we'll be looking at that cycle, each of us. So that's what we're looking at. Let me just take a second here. I know it's a lot of material here. So that's one thing. So we are. We're coming into spring. We have a new moon. It's a very powerful week coming up. So it's time to tune into where we are and what we need and what we want to really create. And we're actually coming into the spring. I mean, especially if many of you are in Northern California, we're coming into an early spring in a sense. Things are green, things are growing, we can be planting. So it's time to really look at what do we want to bring fruition to coming forth, and looking at that. And a couple other things I want to work on right now is numbers. So I'm a numbers person. My brain works in numbers. I think in numbers, and I want to take you through something that I've developed that is just working on our whole creative evolutionary life based on numbers one, basically 1 through 9 and 1 through 10. Okay, so I look at 1 is the vertical relationship, your connection to spirit, God, goddess, however you look at it. 2 is the horizontal connection. So 2 is about relationships. 3 is bringing in another energy. It's a creative activity. So what are you working on creatively? 4 I look at as home, as grounding, is the 4 corners. 5 is a little more active, stable. It's like wants to move around and make change. So that's about our, to me, I call it, kind of travel and education part. 6 is our work. 6 is bringing energy down, heavenly energy down to earth. 7 is your personal health. It's more a spiritual component. 8 is your finances. 9 is things you're working on to complete. And the 10 is kind of going to that next level. It's almost like the new moon part of that cycle. So I want to show you some of that in our slides here. Okay, getting that down. All right, so life through numbers. A good friend of mine, Dan Millman, wrote a book a number of years ago called The Life You Were Born to Live, and it looks at your birth number and then how to understand how to move through different numbers and different patterns as you go through your year or your weeks even. So it's connected to lunar and seasonal cycles, and there's obviously everything is cyclical. Your heartbeat, your breath, the day, you have activity and then you relax and sleep. The weeks, the months, the seasons, the years, the 5 years, the 7 years, the 28 years. There's a lot. I mean, I've been looking at and teaching about kind of it's kind of astrology, but it's also traditional Chinese medicine where you look at, our 3, 28 to 30 year cycles, your identity time, your career time, your spiritual time, when you have your greater knowledge and you have more gifts to give to your people. So, I'm in that 3rd cycle, and I feel blessed to be working and feeling good and taking care of people and teaching whenever I can. So just to review what I was talking to you about is spiritual connection is one, relationships, creative activities, home, travel, education, business, personal health, finances, things to complete. So a little more detail. You have this, you'll have these slides to review at a later point, as part of our class. Identity and connection to spirit, the duality component of horizontal relationships. It's balance. It's kind of working together with someone. Creative activities, 3, foundation, home. What are you building? Travel, teaching. Communication is the 5. Then 6 is business, career, heaven, earth, dharma, bringing forth things. Overall health, number 7. Finances, number 8. Things to complete. So that's 9, opposite of 6. So it's bringing earthly energy up to your awareness. And then 10 is the new cycle. So here's how you look at, and we're going to do this part of one of the months is finding that I'll be teaching is finding our personal identity, our elemental structure. And that's many different systems that you integrate. But just with your numbers, you look at your birth date, if it's, 2/2/2020, that means you're almost 2 years old. But, you add those numbers together. So there can be, 6 or 8 numbers in your birth date, and you add them all together and you come up with like the 12/20/84 is a 27. So, the 1/1/2000 is a 4. So that has 4 is, part of your energy is stability, wanting to come from a place of home. 27 is a 2 and a 7. That's also a 9. So, there's all these different aspects to these. And, to me, I find it fascinating. And, I work with different books that kind of deal with that. And, what card are you and what your sun, moon, and rising is, or factors, and how those interplay and how those move as we go through the cycles. So here, I'm going to take a little bit for you to kind of breathe and look at this this pattern here. So Neil's helped create these topics, the 1 through 9, around the circle, and then we filled in this. So this is something you can look at yourself. Where are your strengths? Where are your weaknesses? Where can you evolve the most? So on the picture on the right with the red lines, we're looking at during COVID time, travel is much less. Sometimes your business and work is less. Your creativity may be up because you're home more. Your relationships may have been beneficial, or they may suffer because, it's not a time, if you're not in a relationship, it's not an easy time to be, seeking that out. Oftentimes your spiritual connection, hopefully, is up. Things that you're working on completing may be home, finances may be down, your personal health might be worse or better, but you're home a lot. So a lot of people are home. So this may change from month to month, but this is one of the areas that I feel is important to look at on a regular basis, one every month, or every period of time. So I think we'll be looking at that as we carry on. There we go. Let's see what I have there. Okay. Stop share. Okay, so we're going away. I have a lot of things in the chat here. Ryan, you have anybody who has any questions at the moment? And I want to carry on. We've got a full group here.
Yeah, no urgent questions there at the moment. Yeah, if anybody has any questions they'd like to ask, you can write them in the chat, and hopefully we can get to them at the end of the.
Okay. voice is kind of staticky, Ryan, when it's coming out. Hopefully mine's not, but all right, let's see. I'm going to come back then and carry forth. All right, so I've been teaching online for several years, and I want to continue to do that because it's very rewarding at both levels. For me and for people who are participating. And so I'm looking at beginning on April 2nd, a 3-month program, and to go deeper into our healing path. And, as I'm talking about here, how to work on our own creative selves. To me, the evolution and our growth and our embracing and the connectedness in all our different body, systems and energies, to me is where we can step out and get beyond some of our symptoms and diseases and go into a deeper place. So I want to talk about these topics a little bit as well. So in April, I'm going to talk, these words came to me, symbolism and synchronicity. It's basically, how does the universe work? And I mentioned part of this month will be an interview with Marty Rossman and talking about the messages that illness has and some of the experiences of doing guided imagery with people and having them embrace like the whys and wherefores, like why am I ill now? What's the message body? And a lot of times it's our individual archetype or an individual energy, whether it's a wise man or woman or a ball of light or a little bunny rabbit giving people a message. And I did that for many years as part of my practice, and have these interviews that I did with people's subconscious nature. And, it's a type of hypnotherapy in a sense, but you're really getting people the insight. And to me, understanding, and it doesn't always have to be getting messages. Sometimes it has to just be seeing yourself in that healed state. Like a couple of my first cases are people that came in when I first started doing this, because we basically were looking at, if we're making a lot of stuff up in our head and how we see things are what happens in our lives, then we want to have people see improvement. So one lady came in and she was getting arthritis in her shoulders, and her frustration was she couldn't water her plants, the hanging plants in her greenhouse. So she just did a simple thing where she visualized herself a couple times a day watering her plants, and she got better and got a little more flexibility. Another woman came in, and one of my first patients, and she had these painful broken fingertips. It's just like they were cracked and red and inflamed. And so I basically just felt like, okay, well, what I want you to do is just picture your blood vessels opening into your hands and the blood flowing into your hands so that it's warm. And so she started doing that 3 times a day for 15 minutes. That was our suggestion. You do these exercises 3 times a day for 15 minutes. And she came back a month later, and her fingertips were much better. And she said, well, I didn't tell you, but something else happened. I used to have like 3 or 4 migraine headaches a week. I haven't had any since I've been doing this. So I called up my friend Art Gladman, who was developing biofeedback systems, and he says, yes, we're seeing that because when you learn to warm your fingertips, that de-stresses your body, it calms the body down, and it balances out your sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system, and that helps with headaches. So that was cool, and that was back a long time ago, and I still remember that, as if it was the other day. So another layer of what I really want to share with everybody, and this is based on my, all my studies and my interests of things other than Western medicine. even though I still, do Western medicine every day. The second month is going to be a focus on your elemental personality, your astrology, your numerology, what your card is. Like my card's the Queen of Clubs on August 14th. That has a certain message symbolism. It has a certain place every year and what it's in relationship to. My associate Bethany Argyle has studied this a lot too, the cards and the cycles that happen as we go. So to me, I want us to really tune into what our potential is, what our capabilities are. And we're not, I don't believe at all we're ruled by the stars or things are set in stone because you're born at a certain time. But I think they all have influences, and how do we incorporate that in there? And we'll get into having a little bit more depth about the numerology and your patterns in that. And then I want to get into, one of my longtime, favorite topics is cycles and seasons, and tuning into the rhythms. And I'll interview Robert Spirit Boxer, who's my martial arts teacher and qigong teacher and buddy, and we'll talk about the importance of a practice. And we're going to share a couple different kinds of practices with you, qigong and also the kata, which was developed by George Leonard and Michael Murphy, who founded Esalen, and my friend Barry Robbins, who teaches us. He's kind of the ongoing teacher now, and it's a series of stretches and yoga and breathing and meditation and everything like that. So to me, those are, because part of what I believe for all of us is to have some discipline, have some core where you feel centered and your core self. And so the world may be chaotic around you, but if you stay centered, you won't necessarily be pulled by it. I've had people ask me, how can you be happy? How can you go to sleep at night, be happy, and get up happy? I said, well, two things. I live in denial and I don't watch the news. So that's partly can be a help, but a lot of us are influenced too much by the media and the chaos that's going on out in the world. And, it's important to have that. So, and really what I like having is an online community that we're part of. And that's what I'm looking at building with all of you and the team. And there we go. Okay. So, and here's some of our things. So there would be multiple things happening during any of these months, and we'll talk more about that. I decided I had, a little too many topics and a little too much in this PowerPoint. So I have a whole other section that I want to present on March 12th on energy medicine, looking at chakras, meridians, along with the practices. I'll interview Spirit Boxer a little bit to just kind of talk about the importance of that. And I really wanted to build with whoever wants to join an evolutionary community, so we're all in this together, and we can talk about that. So now I will take a breath myself, and so part 2 of this class is March 12th.